Hey everyone, it's Mark with Onyx Training, and I'm really excited to talk to you about a new direction that we're taking and that we're going to get into in the upcoming weeks, months, years. Hey man, this is a new direction we're going. It's not like some short-term thing, but it's really just going to be about presenting information for police officers and the community in order to strengthen and increase those relationships. I'm always a big proponent of building relationships. That's what I did my 20 years as a police officer. I really focused on generating and building, creating, sustaining positive relationships with the community. I just think that's the only way law enforcement's really going to succeed. I want police officers to be looked at like firefighters, right? Nobody dislikes firefighters. And I just want police officers to be in that spot where law enforcement, being the noble profession that it is looked at the way people look at firefighters, right? So what I'm going to talk about now is just kind of a general idea of where we're going to go with this, okay? What this is going to look like, what these segments are going to look like. And I call them the idealology of policing. It's bringing back the ideals back to policing. And I'll explain a little bit about what I mean by that. Let me start off by saying I'm a police and community activist. I really am. I believe in policing 100%. I think that is absolutely critical. And I think that the people in policing have answered a call that is absolutely necessary. Now, I'm not one of those people, though. As I say, I'm also a community activist. Not official, I'm not in parades and doing all this stuff, but I believe in the citizens too. I believe in the community, right? I don't think the community is out there all, some war on cops. I don't believe that, right? If you do, that's fine. I can't change your beliefs. But I'm going to tell you that I have never believed that there is a war on policing. Criminals do what they do, and citizens and people are going to look at the media, social media, and develop their understandings from that if they don't have any direct interaction with police. And that's kind of where this whole idea, this whole program, this whole movement is going to be going. We're talking about police officers becoming directly involved with the community again, not in the law enforcement actions, just as people, okay? To me, life is about relationships. It's all building relationships. I think the main role of policing is to build, foster, sustain, and grow positive relationships between law enforcement and the community. I look at policing, you're a liaison. You're a liaison between laws that keep our community running smooth and the community, helping people understand that. And I look at this like, let me give you an analogy of a stop sign, okay? A stop sign doesn't make people stop. We know that, right? Even a police officer sitting at a stop sign doesn't necessarily make people stop. I know that because I wrote a lot of stop sign tickets during my career just because I was sitting at a stop sign and somebody blew through, four-way, and I was kind of confused. I'm right here. So what my point is that what we're trying to do is get people to voluntarily comply, right? That they believe in policing, they believe in law enforcement, they believe in the people in law enforcement, because that's the key, so much that they are willing to voluntarily comply with the law. Because let me put it to you like this. There's a principle of legitimacy, right? And if you're not legitimate just by your badge and your gun and your uniform, you're legitimate, or the citizens, the community will look at you as being legitimate if they believe in you, right? So if you have the cornerstones of policing that I call the cornerstones of policing, accountability, integrity, and character, and you display that, people will acknowledge that and they'll give you the legitimacy to act in your official capacity. If we look at some of the incidents that are going on now, where police officers just can't even do their job in a public venue because everybody around them, well, one, the suspect or person that they're dealing with is denouncing their legitimacy. They're saying no. They're defying their legitimacy. I don't believe you. You're not legitimate to me. And whether or not the police officers are, the citizens don't believe so. And you see that with the videos and the different incidents where if the people gave the officers legitimacy, we would never see those videos because people would listen to the officers like they did years and years ago before different things happened. Now, my big thing is I'm not putting this all on the citizens and I'm not putting this all on the police officers. As we always say, it takes two, right? It takes two to tango. It takes two to make things all right. So I'm saying that both sides have to look at what they're doing. Now, my thing is, I look at the police on this side is that you're the professionals. You're the ones that go out there every day. You're the ones that train. You're the ones that get certified. You're the ones that learn how to deal with people. People are people. It's a spectrum, right? You can't control that. The only thing that you can control is yourself. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about in these different segments, are things that we can do to improve our self-awareness, our self-knowledge, and our ability to interact with people and communicate with them, thereby building that legitimacy with our public. All right? Again, remember, I'm coming from a position where I want people to be together. I don't like this us versus them mentality, right? I don't like this idea that police think that they're at war, right? You're not at war. You're not at war. You police, you keep the peace in your community. And so whenever I hear this, I'm a big person, I believe words matter. And when I hear this kind of stuff from people, it really gives me pause and makes me stop and think and go, wait a minute, let's start thinking about the words that we're using. We use, we're at war, you're the thin blue line of defense and this, and it's like, no, this is a cooperative venture. We're not dealing with, this is not an occupying force in some land where you're trying to get control of things or trying to make, one side give up. This doesn't work like that. And if we have that mentality, we're going to be going down the wrong road. I believe that policing has lost some of its, the foundational principles and mentalities. Again, the accountability, the integrity, and the character. And I know people argue with me on that. I have people argue with me in that quite often, but I say, think about it. The accountability. How many times do police officers, and we see police officers behaving badly. Don't get it twisted that they aren't. Okay? Not everyone, but it's not the 0.0002% like people want to say. When we see those things, when police officers are behaving badly, when police officers are treating people rough, or even in a shooting where they're shooting an unarmed person, or the officer is seen as the defense is they're in fear for their life. It's a rapidly changing situation. They have to make split-second decisions, all that kind of stuff. But what the public sees is that allowance is never given to them. And so then they say, well, wait a minute. We don't have an accountability here. We don't have equal accountability. The police officer is always presumed to be correct. The other person is presumed to be incorrect, right? And so that's what we have to get back to, is that there's that equal accountability, and that the integrity, that police officers are not lying, that police officers are not fabricating evidence, that police officers are not, as we've seen, falsifying an affidavit for a warrant, a search warrant for a residence, and then getting into a shooting when they go in the residence, and they aren't supposed to be there in the first place, that all these things aren't happening, because that detracts and takes away from the legitimacy of policing in the eyes of the public. And if we're not ready to take control of that and take that back and take the ownership and improve the accountability, our integrity, and the character of policing, then why are you even doing it? Why are you even there as a police officer? You might as well be doing something else, because those are the foundations of policing, and we've got to get back and put them back in the forefront. Part of what's going to happen with this series, or this direction, is that I'm going to present different events, different incidents, and we're going to talk about them. Well, it's mostly going to be me talking about them. And while it is my opinion, understand that it's based on foundational principles. It's based on tactics, time-tested tactics, decision-making, and where we are as police, what our role is, and what we're supposed to be. Policies, procedures, all that kind of stuff. Based on my experience and based on my knowledge. So it is my opinion, but it's an informed opinion, right? And remember, it's all coming from, what am I trying to accomplish? Well, I'm trying to accomplish an increase in the perception of policing and the skills and abilities and quality of policing. If you think about the sheepdog analogy, right? Here's my point, is that as sheepdogs, law enforcement has started to separate itself away from the flock. I believe the sheepdog should be in amongst the flock the entire time, constantly checking in on the sheep. How are things going? All right, great, sounds good. When the wolf shows up, the sheepdog goes and deals with the wolf. Once the wolf is gone or dealt with, the sheepdog comes back to the flock. What my perception is now is that the sheepdogs, for the most part, are starting to separate themselves from the flock so that they get a better vantage point of the wolves. Now, their intent is right in that they want to be in a better position to get the wolves before they get to the sheep. The only problem with that is they start to think like the wolves, right? They're trying to think like the wolves, and as soon as they start to do that, they start to behave like the wolves. Because if you're thinking like something, you're going to start to behave like that, and then it's going to become ingrained. It's going to be your behavior and your actions. And so we have to go back to thinking like the sheep. Now see, sheepdogs and law enforcement, you say, I don't want to be a sheep. I don't want to be a sheep. Understand, we're not talking about being a sheep. We're talking about understanding the sheep and what they're doing. You are on a different level because you're protecting the flock. But you can't be thinking like the wolves because you're going to start acting like the wolves. So it's coming back down from the hillside, sitting under a tree, checking everything out and watching from a hiding position, now back amongst the flock. Yes, you're going to have to multitask. You're going to have to be shaking hands and kissing babies one second and then dealing with the wolves in the next. But that's because you can do it. You're a professional, right? Okay, so if you believe in policing, if you believe in people, please come with me on this journey. It's going to be fantastic. Trust me. If you don't, then I ask you to take some time and see if it works, right? Things we're going to be talking about, we're going to push some people's comfort zones. It's about interacting with people. It's about getting out there and asking the tough questions and letting people, maybe take a little swing at you every now and then. Not physically, I'm talking metaphorically. And that gives you the opportunity to educate them in the reality of it, okay? If you're not willing to do that, I would ask you to reconsider why you're a police officer. If you're not willing to get in there and have a tough discussion with somebody, some member of the public on the street, why are you a police officer, okay? So, again, we're going to be talking a lot about events, about training, about preparation, decision making. But understand it's more than training. This is a movement. And I'm just done with watching police, one, complain about how the public sees them and views them, and then two, not doing anything to change that perception. I watched it for 20 years in my agency. People would complain and complain and complain about how the public perceived them, and then I say, well, what are you doing to change that? And they say, oh, it's not worth it, or it doesn't matter. And I said, well, then obviously it's not that painful, right? It's kind of like if you got a thorn in your foot, but you're not willing to sit down and take the time to find it and get it out of there, then it's obviously not that painful to you, okay? Then stop complaining about it. Let's be done complaining and let's figure out how to make things better and how to improve. So if you're down with that, I ask you to join me. Pass this on to people. Share it with like-minded officers or even members of the public, because I'm done with the adversarial, the antagonism. I'm done with the bickering, the arguing, the fighting, the complaining. I'm going to work to try to increase these relationships and kind of bring things back together, right? Because that's the only way we're going to succeed. That's the only way we're going to sustain ourselves, and that's the only way we're going to grow as a community and as a country. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that. And hopefully you're looking forward to it and you're as energized as I am to be putting together these things, and let's make some things happen, right? So check me out on Facebook, Onyx Training Group, on Instagram, same thing, Onyx Training, and website, onyxtg.com. Check me out. From time to time, we'll be doing some lives on Facebook and Instagram, so keep those in mind. I'll put those out when we're going to be doing them. And, let's grow this together, all right? hey, I look forward to it, and we'll see you later.